Hello everyone. Welcome to another tutorial video. In this video we will learn how to create Spring Boot applications from scratch in multiple ways. We will see how we can create Spring Boot applications from the website itself, that is start.spring.io, and we'll also see how to create Spring Boot application from our STS application, that is Spring Tool Suite. I've already created and published a video on how to download and configure STS on Windows. If you're new to STS, that is Spring Tool Suite, you can go ahead and watch that video first. It will be a little helpful for you when we are creating Spring Boot application from the Spring Tool Suite itself. Okay, so without any further ado, let's just jump right in. In this tutorial, we will be covering the following topics, following key points. We'll create Spring Boot application from the website start.spring.io. We'll see how we can add dependencies automatically. Then once the project is created, we will see how to import my project in any IDE. I'll be using Eclipse. You can also use IntelliJ if you want. And we'll see how we can run that Spring Boot application. We'll also be adding a plain and simple controller class which will be handling a get mapping. Second way to create Spring Boot application, we will see how we can create Spring Boot application from Spring Tool Suite. Let's just jump right in. Let's just get started. First we have to navigate to this website start.spring.io, fill in the details and add the required dependencies, and then create a project. And once created, we have to import the project in any IDE. I'll move into Google and I'll just type start.spring.io. The Google gave me this result on first. Okay, for the build tool, we have three options. We can choose Gradle Groovy, we can choose Gradle Kotlin. I'll be going ahead with Maven build tool. Just click on Maven. For the language, I'll leave it as default because I'll be using Java. For the Spring Boot version, you can see that you get a lot of options to choose from. I'll choose the latest version 3.1.0. And it is always recommended to not to choose the snapshot version because the snapshot version, it is developing mode, it is not fully developed. Just leave that snapshot version and choose the latest version. Okay, now coming to the project metadata, we'll feed in the group ID. I'll just simply write com.springboot.learning. For the artifact ID, I'll give in the project name Spring Boot tutorials. Description looks okay, the name looks okay, package name also looks okay. I'll just proceed. For the packaging, jar is already selected, I'll leave that. For the Java version, we can see that Java 17 is selected, that is also good, we can leave that. Now coming to the dependencies, I'll add the dependencies. Which I will be needing in my application. I'll use Spring Web because I have to build RESTful applications. I'll choose this Spring Web. I'll also be choosing actuator dependency, which is a quite useful feature if I want to have monitoring enabled in my application. I'll also choose for the database aspect, I will be using the in-memory database, that is H2. And to have interactions with the database, I'll be choosing the JPA dependency. We are good to go with these four dependencies: the web, actuator, the H2 database, and the Spring Data JPA. Once we are done with the dependency selection, we just need to go and click on generate. This will download a zip file. Just go to the file location and we can see that it is a zip file. We need to extract that. Once extracted, just double click and navigate inside that folder. We can see that we have these many files downloaded automatically. I'll just copy this location. Now once the file is downloaded, we need to go to our IDE and just click here import projects. It is that simple. So just click on import projects. We see that we have a lot of options. So since we have chosen Maven, just click on Maven. This gives me an option to choose from existing Maven projects. Just click on this, click on next. For the root directory, we have to give the location where we have extracted our downloaded folder. So this is the location where my downloaded folder was extracted. So just give this location and we can see that the framework has already detected the pom.xml file. So we are good to go. Now just click on finish. So this says that the project is building. So once the project is built, we can just double click on it and see the contents. So let's just have a quick go through on the contents. We have the sassy main Java file. Inside that we have our main class. So we can see that this class is annotated with @Spring Boot application. So this app annotation we have already discussed in this channel. So you can watch that video if you want to have a quick understanding of this annotation, @Spring Boot application annotation. We have the resources folder inside which we have our application.properties file, which is empty for now, but we will be seeing how we can fill in the properties inside this file, application properties file. And we also have a test package inside which we have a test class that is annotated with Spring Boot test. Let's just leave it as it is. Now I'll quickly click on the POM and let's verify whether the dependencies that I selected have been added or not. So we can see that the group ID is what we kept in the folder. We have the artifact ID, we have the version, and we have the name. We also have the description of our project. So we are good to go. Now let's look into the dependencies. So I selected actuator and we have the actuator. We also have the Spring Starter Data JPA dependency. We also have the Starter Web dependency. We also have the H2 dependency. And we also get the Starter Test dependency. So we are good to go till now. Now let's just see how we can run our Spring Boot applications. So just right click on the project that is created inside the package explorer and you'll see the option of run as. Just select Java application. It will take a while to search for the main class. Just feed in your main class. So my main class, it is of the name Spring Boot Tutorials application. So here we can see that this is our main class. Click on OK. So we can see that in the console it is trying to run the project. And just double click on this console so we can have a detailed view. So here we can see that Tomcat has started on port 8080. So Tomcat is the by default embedded container which we get in Spring Boot. And we can see that the Spring Boot application has started. So now what do you think will happen when I navigate to the website? Localhost 8080. So why this 8080? Because we can see that the application has started on port 8080. So by default, it takes the port 8080 and we can always modify the port using application properties file, which we'll see in a while. But for now, just remember that the by default port which our Spring Boot application runs on is 8080. So I'll move to the browser and just click on run. So it gives me a white label error page because we do not have any mappings. We do not have any business logic defined in my application. So let's just go ahead and try to change that. I will pause the console for now. So what we'll do inside my main application, main Java package, I'll create another class. We'll create a controller class and let's just keep it in a different package inside my controllers package. Okay, so the name of the controller class would be first controller. So just click on finish and we know that we have to annotate our controller class with the annotation RestController. So my class has been annotated with RestController. So this will indicate my Spring Boot framework that all the incoming web mapping requests have to be handled in this class. Inside this, I will just create a simple test method which will return a simple string. So let's just see how we can do that. So first I will go ahead and create a simple method. So since this method will be returning a string, so my first controller method is the name of my method, and from inside I'll return this is my first controller. So we're good to go. Are we good to go? No, we also have to add one more annotation, which is @request mapping. So this request mapping, first let me just fill this slash test. So this request mapping, what will it do? So any URL which will be ending with slash test will be mapped to this controller method. So let's suppose I have a URL localhost 8080/test. So whenever I hit that URL, the request will be mapped to this method, and whatever business logic that I'm doing in this method will be executed. So here I just have a very simple logic. I'm just returning a simple string. So this is the use of request mapping annotation. So I have done this. I'll just save my file and let's just run our application again. Right click, run as Java application. Select my main class. So we can see that Tomcat has started again on port 8080 and Spring Boot application is started. So just move to our browser and localhost 8080 is there. Now we just need to add the slash test and see. So yeah, we are good. We are seeing that my string is being returned in the browser. This is my first controller, which I had the logic of inside my controller class. So this is how we can create simple Spring Boot applications, add a controller class to it, add a functional method to it which will handle any incoming URL requests using request mapping. And all my controller class, they do have the annotation RestController, which is an combination of two annotations, which is controller annotation and @response body annotation. So my RestController annotation, it is a combination of two annotations, @controller and @response body. So I'll have a detailed tutorial on this annotation. So yeah, this was how we can create Spring Boot applications from scratch. A simple Spring Boot application which will do nothing but just return a simple string. We saw how we can add controllers. We can add a simple method which will handle a simple get mapping request. So yeah, we are done with this. Now let's see how we can create Spring Boot applications using STS, that is Spring Tool Suite. So just minimize this and click on my Spring Tool Suite. So my Spring Tool Suite is opening. So guys, I have already uploaded a video on how to download and configure Spring Tool Suite for Windows. You can just go ahead and watch that if you haven't already. So it is taking the default workspace. I'll just click on launch. Okay, so my STS is opened. So let's see how we can create a new project inside of my STS without having to navigate to any browser or anything. So just click on this file, and inside the file we will get the new option, and from there we have to select this Spring Starter project, and here we get to fill in the details. So just fill in the detail like the name, the type of build tool that we'll be using. So here Maven is selected. I'll leave it to that. Packaging jar, language Java. So the group ID I will feed in. So it is selected com.demo.firststs.project. So I'll just leave it to that. Make a little modification. The artifact is also selected. I'll just leave it to that. Package is also selected. So we are looking good to go for this screen. We have selected the name. We have selected the type of build tool. We have selected the packaging. We have selected language. And then we have written our group ID and artifact ID. So now I'll click on next. So here it will ask for the dependencies to select. I'll select web. So Spring Web dependency, because I'll be creating applications that will be having RESTful logic inside them. So with Spring Web selected, I'll select JPA and I'll also select the H2 database. Okay, so these three dependencies look good to go now. So I'll just click on finish. So we can see that the project is getting created. So let's just wait for a little while. Okay, so now we have the project created inside my STS. Let's just explore it quickly. So we have this RC main Java. Inside that we have our main class annotated with this Spring Boot application annotation. We also have our resources folder where we have our application properties file, which is empty for now, of course. Let's just quickly explore our BOM. So we have the dependencies that we selected, the JPA, web, the H2, and also the test dependency. Okay, so we are good to go now. So here also we'll create a simple controller class and we'll try to run our application. So let's right click here, create new class. First controller, and I will keep it in a different package inside a controllers package. Okay, so now click on finish. So we have already seen that the basic annotation that a controller class needs is the RestController annotation. So once done, I will create our simple function which will also return a simple string. And from here I will return a simple string. Oops. Hi from STS. Okay. So once we have created our method, let's just add the request mapping so that I can tell my framework to handle all the URLs logged in /sts test to this method. So all the URLs, all the requests which will have /sts test will be mapped into this method. Okay, so we are good to go now. Now let's just see how we can run our Spring Boot application. So just right click, and here we also get the option to choose from run as Spring Boot app. So it's just that simple. A dialog box will pop up. Just click on allow access. So if I double click on my console, we can see that Tomcat has started on port 8080. So let's just see how we can run this application, how we can test this application on my web browser. So I'll just copy this because we'll be needing this to add in my URL. So I'll just go into my browser. Oops, there is an extra slash. I'll just delete that. So yeah, once we are running the URL, we are seeing the simple string that is being returned, which is hi from STS, which is exactly what I specified here. Hi from STS. So yeah, we see how we can create Spring Boot applications using Spring Tool Suite also, how to add a simple controller class, how to add a simple function inside of my controller class which will just return a string. Okay, so that was it for this tutorial. Now let's just have a quick understanding on what we learned in this tutorial. So we learned how to create Spring Boot applications from the website start.spring.io. We saw how to add dependencies automatically. We saw how to import my project in my IDE, and we saw how we can run Spring Boot applications. Also, we saw all these points like how we can create Spring Boot application from Spring Tool Suite. We also checked on the box on how to add controller classes inside my Spring Boot application and how to map simple method URLs to any method defined in my controller class. So in the future video, we will see how we can build more complex application using Spring Boot, like how to build RESTful APIs using Spring Boot. Okay, so that was it for this video, and in the future videos on the Spring Boot playlist, we'll see how we can create more and more complex RESTful APIs. And as we go ahead, we'll also be creating the whole microservices architecture. We'll also be seeing how we can leverage the power of Spring Cloud in my applications. Okay, so that was it for this tutorial, guys. And make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because we will be creating more and more videos, more and more tutorials on Snowflake, AWS, and the whole Java Spring Boot microservices ecosystem. So I'll just ask you to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any comments, any problems, or you can always leave them in the comment box. I've also linked my LinkedIn ID on the info of this channel. You can also connect to me on LinkedIn if you have any doubts. I'll make sure to revert to you. Okay, so that was it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.